all my helpers on the computer, they all say they haven't got time, they can't, and it's never come onto the computer.
No, he does.
No.
People in Australia.
The shurim come onto the computer eventually, but the audio part of it hasn't come on. Even though we've had it going over a year, nobody's prepared to do anything about it.
Some people in Australia are watching.
Huh?
People in Australia are watching your show.
Watched it?
Maybe not the
No, they've heard it, but they couldn't watch it. It's never gone onto the computer. It's there. It's all sort of in the computer, but it hasn't been put up onto the Shidud HaMarachis. But anyway, the people who listen, I know. I ran into a guy in where is it, in Leeds, England. He came up to him and he said that he listens to some of the classes, and then he said that he even hears the Shur Kloris sometimes. It's not bad going. All right. So we saw the din and of Ava al Pitavadas is Mechuse and Mugel and Beklau. Those are cloud. We're going to meet with Kama Piomim in the Hemshech of the Piyah that are oil which is mislabish mamish and a kli, meaning a oil a shaykh lekli ve'ike giluya is alidei kli. Then in Yoni is he's mugbal b'lefi a kli, and that is slabshas is poil bola atzmiyas in that oil that if it's meya michutz lekli, it's only meya, even from ha'ora lefi etzem mahusay, because the kli is now a whole Indian of interaction between it and the kli, and that's what we see. The kli is makbil, kli is machase with all sorts of different lashenas that we find beneged to kelim, so that oil which is meya michutz lekli is only ha'ora. And before we talk about the chitainis kli. And in the Pnimius Akli is not shaykh anyway to Gilui Michutz L'Akli L'Gamre. Kemuvua, you do a move in Bahabi Mekemus, beneged to the whole Hamshocha Vatzilus in Biyad, only of Derech HaOra Bulvad V'chulu. Since this Ava, Al Pitan Vadas, is an Ava which is Yerudu Mislabish in the Koiches, and in the Midrash Belev, and they are koiches, and the kli of that is the in a leiv, the leiv agashmi of the Odom. Avamil is a hagbola, how much it can express itself, and therefore we saw it's only a pashtas, and therefore it doesn't have to be, as they call it now. I saw the day I was driving in and I saw a big notice up, ma pchanim, chapsim ma pchanim or something. It's they know what ma pchanim over here is, pink to say boidom. Somebody breaks through the normal hagbolas and he gets something really powerful through. So oil which is malubish in a kli, by definition not able to do that. And therefore what is nimshach is a ha'or. And therefore the effect of that which is bo b'teich klei haleiv, it is only mugbo what it can be poil in the autumn b'derech ha'or bilvad. But the infant rusa de libe. The Indian from Rusa to Liebe, Rusa is Meloshen Rotzen. It's the Aramic word for Rotzen. And we're going to see here now a whole view in the Indian of Rotzen, that Rotzen is not like that. Rotzen, on the contrary, is able to be poiled freely on the Kelim and make them, as you might call, move to its tune. In other words, it brings the Kelim that they should be misbattle legamri to it, being as it is a bilti mugbo be'etem mohusay. It's not limited, and it's not even mishchasha'iv with the hagolas of kelim. On the contrary, it is koivesh and moishel of those hagolas. Therefore, that's what the Rebbe means to say that it's an ava bilti mukbelet. Dahainu, what does that mean? She'eino niknas toik halev, like we saw in the previous ava. That she niknas toik halev. Here is an eino niknas toik halev, adarabba, who oidef al halev umakifo. So that wasn't oidef al halev, umakifo. Well, that's interesting, because the word oidef means like nowadays you call change, in other words, what's left over almost of a certain yin, and it's called adifus, or oidef. So that what the Rebbe says, it's oidef alalev umakifo. Well, that would tend to indicate that there is a certain amshocha, but there are pnimis also. No, it's so powerful that it's uidef alalev, it's kilu godesh et alev, and it's also what you might call nishtapeich michutz lalev, and then it's even got the power to be makif. In other words, what's mera the ava is miskala even more. It's able to be makif. It's kolakli. Amamira. The lashon uidef is very interesting, which tends to indicate ulai b'derech efsher. We can sagen that since of course this comes through a inyan pnimi in the nefesh, through a koyach pnimi, what does it mean, and a seichel, and then we have to say that Sof it has a certain shefa which is nimshach also in the kli, but it is azak would be mitzad etzem toichnoi and etzem inyonei. It's kilo nishtapik meakli. It's not mugbal or it contained completely in the kli, but it pours out of the kli, and then the more it gains its own momentum, as you might say, it's makiv the whole kli. And therefore, it follows that and therefore he doesn't feel fulfilled from their ma'ava. He's always in a state of unrest, and he always feels that there's Lamaila and beyond. If the Av is in the form of his butlers, not in of self-fulfillment, on the contrary, a continuous feeling of bittul to that which is still not grasped, and that's the whole union. But this type of his boneness, the awareness that you're not able to grasp. What does it even asog sashlila? And ever said the Rebbe comes to say that this is another type of ava where it's a ständiger tzimoyen. It's in other words, it's an ava which is a tzimoyen, not Imamira. That's a little bit al derech with from what's moving in Perek Zayin, in Tanya Perek Shvi, in Tanya Dot al Terebe Mavaya. That there's an ava which is not really an ava in the real sense. It's a tzimoyen. It's a bren, as I mean, when he goes out completely beyond all the koiches. Over there he means kora peredike, which has got even bekoiche lahafek, it's a gimel klippus atameis v'chulu. That's what he means the etzem mamish. Aber auch upon him ein mizeh, what he means here, that this is a tnua of an ava which is not, it's not the feeling of ava, no, it's the feeling of longing and tzimoyen. Because b'derech klal, Ava's got itself too, a certain longing, a certain tzimoyen for the minyan, and then there's the inyan of the what you might call the fulfillment of the hasogas, or the shachtas, with the inyan and the taking the inyan, that's what you might call the, like he says, the rivui of the tzimoyen. In other words, that's the inyan Ava. That's the mitzvah Ava. Because Ava takes two sides of the Seif and shachtas. But where it's cured, the what you might call the matorah, the Ava is always beyond him. And he's always shoyef to a inyan which he can't really reach. PMS. In Mamela, he's in a continuous state of tzimoyen. It ever says that Rabbi Harizeh poel ala Teves shetis battle be'etzem mohusai ad sheyuchel hisapik al yedei zeh. Me kaklaka will see in a second. So he says that this is poel koidim kol, that's a poel in the Teves of the mensch. In other words, a kol way that you're coming to the mensch and you're filling up his keli, as you might say, you're pouring out his keli and then you're filling it up with a dover ha-nechmad v'anilto etzloi. He feels good and he feels well, fulfilled, and he feels that there's a tremendous expression of his koiches and his life, everything is good and all is teiv, arum, and therefore the Teves to a certain extent cashes in on that, and the Teves says, I'm also prepared to be a little bit more higher and a bit more barabatish, of course, the Teves is really, in a way, benefiting from them ganzen Tnua. However, he said, when you're continuously reaching out of yourself, and you know that your whole inyan is not fulfilled, and you're in a state of Shimoyen El Do She'odlo. Yeah, he sakta. Then you leave the Teves behind. He sort of feels completely, how do you call it, hungry, because you're not giving him anything. You're just telling him, listen, man, we've got to go higher and higher and higher. If it's higher and higher, there's not going to remain anything. Yeah, for breakfast, as you might say. Yeah, the fellow is Ayin Hanami. He becomes, as you might call, he becomes, to use the expression in Yiddish, oisgedart. Like you thin him out from his pashtas. Yeah, therefore, said the Rebbe, you can, if you take away the, what you might call the shumnaniyut, how do you call it, the shumnoniyus of the TV, so then he said, it could be that he might even be able to alter mi'achzori l'rachmoni or mitachlis ha'gazes l'tachlis ha'shiflus. Now, when we say gazes, we don't mean grobkeit in the normal sense. Ki grobkeit mad chashmeipo. We're talking here about people who are already up into madrigas and aveda. Now, gazes is the inner thickness. In other words, the feeling of the self. In other words, gazes is more the union of a how do you call it, a dikar metzias, a feeling of the self. And my memory said he can be mishapig, mitachlis ha'gazes, l'tachlis ha'shiflus, he can wear a bottle dikar. He can almost become bottled in his whole attitude to inyonim, both lagabi yalakus, kamuvan, and lagabi people around him, and beklal in the inyan of that. And Kumavur, as it brought down in the Maimorim from the Frierdiker Rebbe and Oid Mekayim, that we see that one of the Dvorim Koshim Lisboel is talking when there are people that like Erakom Eino Kokach Al Tadanailo, or mitzad the gases, they stoop in the room and they've always got something to say. It would be better maybe if they were monea, bisel b'chulu. Those are the Deutsch gases, and that comes from heder beetle of the TV. It comes like filling the TV. But whatever he's had to do with kedusha, it's always been his way. And so I feel I'm a chassid and I'm a ganzen Yerushalayim and I'm I've got all the necessaries and people give me a yashikoyach, and I've got my name in the Kwachapad, and maybe even into the Beis Moshiach, and noch a platter, and tata. And ich bin mir gewährt von dem Rachmon in Enzlan, Ayin von a Steckenisch in Yonim, which it would be better not. And reinstecken in a solche Erte would be better loy. In Bamira, that's Ayin von Gasses. Bamira is very Ayin von Pirat Lavabe, it didn't need to be, Malachatchila, nicht gedacht sein. Yeah, Malachatchila. The answer is shiftless. Yeah, shiftless is the touch. Yeah, beetle. Yeah, Arabgeworfen. The Rebbe is going to say, Mommy, she's going to say it later. Arabgeworfen kite. Mommy says, Mommy's that was. Yeah, thrown down. You throw yourself down on the country. You cast yourself down into the much lower echelons of being anything at all. And then you function in a much better way, and you're much more active with people, and everything is much more desirable. However, we notice that here it's interesting. We're talking about Ava LaKodesh Baruch. We're talking about Avas Hashem and Ava in Elakus, Mateli in Yonim. And all of a sudden he says that. So he says that you'll be oisik, and you'll go higher. And that Ava could be you might think could be Ayin from beetle with cheese, some sort of amazing beetle telekus. He said no, it could be that he might be Musafik from an Achzori to a Rachmoni. In other words, that the Pu'ula from these Inyonim at the beginning is in Inyonim Tiviyim graded. And therefore he said that Tiviyus, he means mamish the Teva of the Adam, Kipshute, that at the beginning, if you really want to be misasik with your teva and be mishtana from one side of a teva to another Indian, legamri, then you have to be oisik in dvarim nailim. You can't just walk around saying, because you just slip back. The only way to really be mishtana in dvorim pshutim is to be vernommen with a higher inyan. And maybe it's al derech. I mean, b'derech efshe shebe'efshe, it's al derech with the old Siddish quip, an old Siddish quip that an oirach kommt auf Hawaii, zeter amayol. I say something in Yiddish. A guest comes for just a short while, but he sees a mile. What he sees, it's not good in the house, because he's a guest. He's an observant person, but he's not involved. He's not karuch. How do you call it? Reingeschleppt in the ganze Linien, and he's not nogea bedover. He just sees and he can tell you, why don't you fix this? This will be a good aid. Pick to see if he went, mit Yisrael, me lanu godel. Me Yisrael, he came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and immediately on the spot he gave Moshe Rabbeinu a meandike. Just come here. Moshe Rabbeinu, because a guest kommt auf a while, set a mile. When you go up into higher inyonim, then you become like a guest, like up your own self, and you can see where you really, what is really the problem. And maybe you look down a little bit on yourself and say, what's going on around? I'm really, verkrochen. What's he doing? But the amazing thing that the Rebbe said in the previous part, that could be toikiftika avos Hashem, but we both that you took that to yourself. You got avos Hashem, but you're still the same. Mitzad your Teves, you're still the same. It's kosher l'tayah, mamish exactly the same. But ain't shinui mahusi. And Mamela Kuntais says the Rebbe that the first thing that this is poil, that the mention is mamish in his tibius, and his no natural way of functioning. It could be this is a beauty misbal. He's an akzori, he's a cruel person. Nishka dakistik made the filtness, what nishka monos people to do it. That is mishana him, and that has an effect on him, that he can be mishapik from an akzori to a rachmana. He can be go mamish pink the heifer, mitachlis agasas letachlis a shiflus. Instead of being thinking he's a ganze rashki bahag, the whole world come to my yashakoyach and everything, and Pliny says something. No, I don't agree with this. Whenever the whole of the ganze Chabad has to agree with him that he's right, because he doesn't agree with Pliny. That's the Chopton ganzen articles in the papers and mit seinen Narrichkeiten v'chulu. And when all of a sudden he realizes that Gewalt, let's get back to the MS. Let me get to because who am I beklagen? Das ist eine von Schiflers. We know that here dafke the Russian Schiflers. The Rebbe doesn't say beetle, it's a gazel, it's a beetle. Dafke the word Schiflers. Now, but there are cloud, Schiflers is not a thing which considers praises a huge amount. Because Schiflers mean, I'm just a chauffeur, who am I, there's even criticism of that sometimes. But sometimes you've got to start all over again. If you're a gas, then the only way to start over again, you've got to become a chauffeur. Once you're a chauffeur, then you can build mechodash. And therefore you've got to become a chauffeur. Like I told you, the Meiser was given with, this or the Hoige Madreiges, Milano, the Saru Bekaila for him. So a sipper with the world telephone, Reb Mendele Horadog, Reb Mendele Vitebske. And he was good, so pilling yesh laharig bezev ein l'shaya l'taya the godless and Reb Mendele Vitebske. And then he was only a young man. He passed away when he was about 50 or something. Reb Mendele Vitebske. The whole world was mamish bottle for him. He was something no gesehen. They just became bottled to him. Piddly plates on the anyway, they say that he used to sign himself a shuffle BMS. That's what I meant. He used to write himself a shuffle BMS, and then because he was tremendously in from Beetle, that he was moyandig. And over he was unbelievable. So he used to write a shofel b'yemet. So one of Zayna Mukusharim, he saw it. Rabbi Scheib said, he's worked on the middle of Shiflas a lot. So he also used to write a shofel b'yemet. So one of the more leading members of the entourage, you might say, he saw that. He mentioned to the Mendel Teves guy, he said, hospital, does. So the Mendel Teves said, if you have a minute, tell him to step in. So Reinkum say, he asked him, what's it? So said, I saw, the Rabbi Scheib to say, we're all working on the Midas HaShiflas, we did every bill, so I thought that, it's a school over there, Rabbi took to say, so the Mendel said, give a cook. He said, you have to realize, Berachmanis Kemur, nicht Tekifes. He said, you have to realize that du bist be'emes HaShofel. Du bist be'emes HaShofel. And he said, HaShofel be'emes, it's an andere. That's what Rabbi told me. He went away, he had his ticket, he said, you learned sein ticket. Remember what that means here? If you're old by Tatas Agasas, then you got to realize that the only way out is to be Emes HaShofel. You got to be an Emes HaShofel, not a Shofel be Emes. In other words, there's got to be the Yidin from Emes HaShiflas. Ukahai Gavna, and similar to this. In other words, it begins with very simple but tremendously marked alterations in the Teves makeup for the man. Where's he been up to now? Left a council, and he didn't realize he's a cruel man. He didn't realize that. Now he begins to, and he can be Mishana Mea Kotzer La Kotzer for wars, because this is a Koyach Elyon, which is not reckoning with the Hagbolas of the Kli. It's a in Michutz La Keilim, Poel Aleim, as we'll see a little bit more. Ukahai Gavna, and similar to this type of Indian, Mipnei, Shemizbatlu, Mishtana Be'etzem Mahusay. In other words, that Rusa de Liebe doesn't just leave you satisfied, no, Rusa de Liebe, that he could brecht the mensch in a good neuven. It breaks him, say so, ask livnet. But derech agav, I mean, just be klolles Ayin, das ist eine von den Jahren von Ner Chaneke. Was ist die von Ner Chaneke, the Davke Achutz, Davke, the famous beer from the Rebbe Rayat, that the mezuzah worked from here inwards. The mezuzah stayed up the tip, but it works inward. It's for the house, and it's part of the house. And the Ner Chaneke, pit verkehrt. The Ner Chaneke is out there, but it's in order to go that way. It's in order to get out to the chutz. Kol Inyoni is Yel Hoyer is a chutz, and the ganze beer, Mufursa. So one of the beauty of that is that the Inyan from Ner Chaneke is that it breaks the chutz. In a sense, Meya in the chutz, in a oiv of a memshola, or bittel, it's mavattel, the whole Inyan of the chutz. Or mamira, it can even be, mahapir the chutz. Sof kotzov, what is the Inyan from Kalye Rigle Talmudoi? And it's more in the Drushim from the Rebbe Nishmas Yayin, that Kalye Rigle, the Talmudoi, that the Talmudoi, they become not only Kalye from Rosh Bittel, but they become from Rosh Klois HaNefesh, that they themselves, Nesapik, Be'etzim Minyonah, and they want to be bottled telekus, and they shrein, we want Moshiach now. I feel that the Moeldim from the Talmudoi. They state in Drushim Siddha. Mamira, it's a similar type of Indian that the Ner Chaneke is Meyer, and Mamira, the Ner Chaneke is Kalicht. It's not a light. It's a Koyach Otzum. What Ein Lanu Shem Acher, to call it Oyer, or we told Indian is it's Mavatal and Mahapur the Choisha. The Fast nicht Licht. Therefore, Ein Lanu Rishus Licht. You can't have any know you can't sit and be nana from the oil of the Ner Chaneke. Das ist nicht Hanoah dicke Oil. It's not, and therefore it's not a lie. I mean, no, was habe ich Elektrikkeit. I should have aber noch von. Aber immer ein Land Rishus Lishtamish boyen, and we elected it. Elamai, it's not a licht, it's whole in is to be Mavatel and Mavatish, and to brechen the linie van Hepech allicht. Yes, Lahari was there. Al upon him in Harikot in Zeis Chaneke, the Hemshech al upon him from Zeis Chaneke. It's good that we haven't mentioned that. To come up and it's an amazing thing. A bit further down there, he brings a mimer, because that's what we're supposed to be holding. I mean, I'm supposed to learn quickly and we get down this far. But you have to forgive me that that's my way. What can I do? If we were learned properly the way we should be, then we'd get down to me and Vanera Chaneke Mishmoel. We've got it both ways now. I somehow or another managed to get onto Ayin Vanera Chaneke, even though I'm not going to get that far. It doesn't appear to me that in this year I'll get that far. But nonetheless, when I was preparing this year, I got that far. Vanera Chaneke Mishmoel and Mezuzah Mi Yamin. You know, we had to talk about Vanera Chaneke one way or another. And this is niet van Zeis Chaneke. Now, I frag by dir. Das not as Gachel Prati. It's a large Gachel Prati. And the interesting thing was that I thought we were holding a little bit further until I clapped that we weren't. And so I've been geschwommen. Almost to the beginning when I looked in the whole patch, that's what I hit. So I thought, Hemshech to Zeis Chaneke, and he brings that, and he brings that it's the inyan from Bittel in the whole inyan of the Niroim, a Bittel in Mahus on Niroim, Mamish or Divert, bringt that. וכהי גבנה מפני שמזבטל ומשתנה בעצם מהוסה. Amamira, בעצם מהוסה means that it's poured in the, as they say, in the kishkits. Deep inside, that he's unable to be oimed meneged, and he has to give in and be different than he was. So now it brings a very interesting in from what you might call autonomy almost. Begufa Adam, Hari, Lamaila mea parsa, Hein kol koiches hanailim, Kemoy amoichin shebereish, Vamil Sheba Lay. In other words, at Kemoy Lamaila there's parsois between the main areas of Gilui. For example, you have a parsa between Keser and Chochma. And then you have a parsa between Lamaila Mia Keser and Arich. Chochma Stimor. You have all these different parsois. And between Malchus Tatzilas and Bria, you have a parsa. All these different parsoi. So a parsa is a very amazing musag. It's also muvur in the Drushim Mechanika. It's also in Torah, the inyan from parsa. Because in the Sefer Torah, it comes up on more than one or two occasions, the whole inyan. However, what is the parsa by a mensch? What are a parsa? So, that's what we call the chotzer hakoved, which is like a sort of a membrane that's connected with the how do you call it, the liver.
Diaphragm. Diaphragm.
Where?
Diaphragm.
Yeah, diaphragm. Oh, there's a whole thing called a diaphragm that's connected with the inyan, and that's like a chlorlistic hevdil between the, what you might call the upper realm of the mensch and the lower realm of the Odom. That's what we mean here. That's called the Chotzer HaKovid. It's called in Lashon HaChassidus, and it's got a certain pu'ula, what it unites those two worlds and passes inyonim one to the other. It's not just purely a fence, which is mavdil. That wouldn't be fair to the pass at all. Although on the other hand, it does act as a sort of a general dividing line in the mahus sug of the koiches which are beyond it or underneath it. So therefore he says that the parsa, the maila, is all the koiches, the elevated, and what you might call more appropriate koiches to a mensch. Kamui amoichin sheberoish, b'midah shebelei. In other words, that even the midas alamayla miaparsa kisokosov, the midas by a mensch are also supposed to be matim to the inyan amoichin and lefi inyan amoichin. They're all like one mareches, one mixture, all of themselves together. Ubedera klau, said the Rebbe, achaya shebelei v'reyo. Now the reyo is the lungs. Hareze ike pnimius achayis. Now that's a very interesting statement. That the chayis that there is in the heart and the reyo, the lungs, they are the ike pnimius achayis. Now we have to understand, what does he mean by that expression, the ikar pnimius achayis? Because look at the container that the Ike, he just said that you got the Ine from Moichin Shabarosh. They're a long way from the Leiv and the Reya. I mean, they're up in the Rosh. And in the Moichin, why does he say the Ike Pnimius HaChayah? So the Inyan is that, albeit the Moyach, Inyan is, we're in Tani in Perek Nun, and in Perek Nun Aleph, the Moichin, not Perek Nun Aleph, I mean, is the Moichin are tremendously clolly, and they have a certain memshola over the whole body, and all the koiches are klulim somehow or another in the Moyach. Everything one way or another goes back to that tremendous switchboard or tremendous computer gear in the Moyach. Everything is kil niklal umushrash in the Moyach. But you can't really say that the Moyach is the Ike Pnimius Achayas of the mensch. Pnimius means that which is mislabish in Kelim, and that which is Machaya the Kelim, and Mamera through that Machaya the whole union of the goof, and all the functioning of the bench, biz, the Koiches Achitzoini, Mamish like Koichatnu, and the Al Inyonim, all of that is totally in the Leiv, and interestingly enough, in the Reyo. Not only just the Leiv, but also the lungs. In other words, that the Indian of the Leiv, like the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya Dot in Perek Tes Ayin, that the Leiv is chumri kasha'ei vorim. The Leiv has got in himself a similarity and a demoyen to all the other koiches, that he's also a physical and almost a material Indian, but he's got milas and nilas from his gois, yachadim zeh. And so the Moyach is the Ike Mamutza with all the Inyanim of the Vorim, because he is like them. And the Moyach, you can't say that the Moyach is chumri. You can say that the Moyach has become a gusham. That the mensch is, he's lost his edelkeit and he can't be bothered with the deep asoga or but you can't say that the Moyach is chumri. The Moyach is, Mami said it called physical material shtick. However, the Leiv, Be'etzem Minyone, is a chumri, but together with that, it's got itself the ability to have koiches nailim, and therefore the Leiv is able to be mishtaber with all the other Evorim and feed them. Because if you want to feed somebody, you've got to give him, you've got to be bedimon elov, you've got to have the same square that he needs, and therefore you can feed. And therefore, physical kiyum and the slabshes in the Evorim per se, well, that's only the Leiv. And therefore it goes with the dam, because the dam is the same meaning, and he's a chumri, and he's mamish shayak too, the chumri is of Afo Pekeni. He carries in himself high inyanim, the adium and all those inyanim which are mavur barichas that go with the dam together. So what's this all of a sudden here, the reya? Because we see that together with, first of all, there's a pele, what it says that the reya is near the heart, they're somewhat near the heart, the lungs. And they have a certain inyan that they sort of expand and they go in and out. Well, that's like a sort of a covering and cooling effect on the lave. It has the ability of what you might call cooling down the lave, because the lave, being as it is a inyan from choim and dam, therefore the lave can become hot. And as it's written in the Torah, it's written by Ayin with these really one is really in cast. Ashteki yecham levovoi. His heart gets really hot, and then you got to be very careful. It can come to inyanim bilti rutzuyim legamrei. And if we see that the heart gets hot, and the reo has an effect that it sort of choifef al alev, and what you might call literally cools down the inyan of the lave. Over usually, b'pashtus chutz mizeh, b'pashtus to what we are concerned with here, we see that the lave is connected with the inyan of the breathing more than what the heart is, even though the heart is also very shy to the inyan of the breathing. But the kli of the neshima mamish is the lave, and that passes on the rea. I meant to say the rea, the adequate lungs. And therefore, the etzem taking in of the air and the passing of it round and the giving out in order to enable another passage and so on, well, that functions through the rea. So we could say that the rea gives in the lave another inyan which is called in Siddur the ruach hachayim. Now it's put down in Siddur as Aloshan that there's chayis and there's ruach hachayim. In other words, the chayis that the etzem needs and a purely blood relationship of all the different evorim, and they need the blood that brings them all sorts of evorim. But then there's a certain inyan which is called ruach hachayim, which passes in the blood. But that makes the mensch behemoth, lebedik and delicate, and it adds to all of his ability of all the different limbs to reach their emissary function and their emissary tachlis, what they're really supposed to be doing. Huh? Huh?
In Tanya it's called the luz.
Luj?
The luz. In Tanya, the cycle of the blood in the...
Yeah. That's called the, I don't know what word you're referring to there, didn't quite catch it. But the inyan for Ruach HaChaim is a higher Ruchnisdike inyan. It's more shy to Ruchnias than it is to the Gashmias. In other words, we see that each Eva needs a certain Ashpur Gashmias, and there can be what you might call a Gesundter Eva. I feel by a mention he's as if he doesn't have any particular interest in anything much, except maybe kicking footballs around or and then there's an inyan of a Ruach HaChaim, but there's all sorts of other Sachen that go into the Avery, and they sort of bring with them a message and an expression and an ability to relate to all sorts of inyanim, ruknim, koil adinim, van avos chaverim, v'chule, all sorts of inyanim. Well, that's called the Ruach HaChaim. Yesh lema that that's also from the real. That comes be'ikah, and that's introduced into the blood be'ikah through the intake of the real. And therefore the real is very important in the whole inyan of the chayas pnimius. He's like mashlim, what you might call the alam metachlistik uftu of the chay. So it should be inyan from delicacy. And like you see sometimes that even little creatures, you can see that sometimes, they're just existing, and then other times all of a sudden, they light up and they're all these amazing little things are functioning. The same with the human, sometimes, for example, when he's asleep, and then, later, you see these amazing, delicate expressions, and from Dibur, I feel in Maisa, a man can talk, all sorts of, you know about that. In Maisa, there's even from Dibur, what they call it, body language. All that is the Ruach HaChaim. Says the Rebbe, there's the inyan from the Laiv and there's the inyan from the Reya. There's the Ike Pnimius HaChaim. The Moichin is a Makif Tikizah. And ultimately speaking, that Makif can be poil in all sorts of ways. But it's Makif. Like we see. How do you say it? He's got a lot of good thoughts, He means good, In other words, he's got gewaldig inyanim. In other words, it's not necessarily pnimius hachayas. Lamata me'aparse ein Ivri hamoze the limbs of the food intake, had he got Evrei HaMozein, Shehein Betachlis HaGasus. They're very, had he got grubber and self-emphasized entities. But nimmt bohem pseilus for afila the Indian van Epich, Hanochi Lagami, the meaning van Toya. In other words, that we see then that parsa has an ability to cause a whole bureau. It's not just a Dova Hamadio, and all the inyanim that enter through the higher aspect of the body are dealt with by that and makes a whole bureau, and it tends, the lower main organs tend to be more like organs that absorb things which ultimately their purpose is to mostly go out. For example, the liver deals a lot with, even though it does feed back, and the same with the kidneys and the other organs which are got to do with the passage of the Toya, etc. All those inyanim Sofkosov is an inyan to do a bureau gas, which is ultimately for the inyan of its departure from the good.
Elimination.
Yeah. And therefore we have a special bracha, Asher Yota, which Asher Yiposeach Mehem or Yisosei Mechot Mehem, because there has to be that inyan from Pesich. That's connected with the lower avodim. So that was it. That we see in the mensch, there's a tremendous, how do you call it, Hebdel Bein Zeller Zeh. And we're going to see that nonetheless there can be an interrelation between them, not Kashmir. So I feel in Ruznisik there can be an interrelation between them. וזהו מפני שהכוח שבמוח ולאי ואיבר הנשימו, that's the real, הן בפינס תפיסה והסלבשת, so what does he mean? זהו מפני. What is he trying to be masbir? זהו מפני is on the scene as tar. What is bothering us? That here we see l'chora, that we see that the mensch is like he's like two worlds. He's like what you might call a dichotomy. Yeah. The upper part of him is gewaldig, and the lower part not so good. Yeah, I mean, it's very important. It's tremendously important, but it's, it's another world altogether. And therefore, it's one on the famous thing over there. Was it in the Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin? There was this in that he said to, who was it? He said to Rav Gamliel, I think he said it was, that there's two sections of the mensch, like two halves of him, and he said the upper part of him is shaykh to Hurimin, but Hurimin was a name in those days for the Eivish. They used to call, the Goy used to call the Eivish Hurimin, and the lower part of him is shaykh to Hurimiz, but Hurimiz was the name of an Aveda. So he wanted to say that the mensch is two. One part of him belongs to the Eivish, the other part of him belongs to somebody else. So he answered him, the famous Chuvas at the beginning. So he says, Heiki, so he said to him, Heiki Shovik Hurimiz, Hurimin, Lahavir Mayim Bigvulei. He said, how come that Hurimiz allows Hurimin to pour water through his area? In other words, if you take him water through the mouth, it goes first of all into this part. But eventually, particularly if you're fasting and you drink more salt water, it just goes more straight through. Excuse me for the rather earthy expression. So what happens here is that it really goes into the top part. That's Huramin. That's the Eibishter. And this Huramiz, he's the one down there that's in charge. So he said, how does he let the Huramin take water through his property? Okay, that's kind of the time. Unfortunately, nowadays we have Inyanim Ayin saying kind of mokim laharik v'dvarim ha'mafhilim v'mitzayirim v'chuli v'chuli. So therefore, said the Rebbe, what is it? Why is there such a dichotomy? He said, "Zeh mipnei shakoycha shebemayach v'leiv even hashim ein b'chinas tfisa v'slapshis ba'kelim shalem." So the kasha is the being is they are such high things, and these other things are such poshut, grobbing Sachen. These ones up there should have a whole memshala gemura, and they should be in charge of these. Otherwise, should there be like two areas, and they don't really. There's no real relation one to the other until we call the hotakov and a parasa. It's like a separating influence. He said, look, they should be the ganze balawa, but even they should run everything. And he said, no, the reason that it's like that, it is really a dichotomy, because he said that those koiches b'moyach u'balai v'eve anashima ein b'chinas Teves v'slavish b'kelim shalehem. They malubish in kelim. If you're malubish in a kli, then you've got to do things the way your kli allows you. In other words, you might have a lot of things that you could say, but since you're inside a kli, and he's a kosher kli, and he's your kli, then you've got to do it his way. You can't get outside what your kli tells you. However, he says, if since there is slapsif kelim shaleim, ve'enem mishpashtim lechutz me'akelim shaleim, rak ha'or elevad. It does go outside the kli, but only ha'or. Okay, einem poilim be'avodim lizbatel be'etzem muhusam legabi ha'koiches ha'pnimim. However, the koiches pnimim, like the midas and the moichin and the other good things, they can't be poil in all these avodim. Agasim v'pshutim yoter, because what is going down to them is only ha'or, because it's limited by the kelim. In other words, if the kelim closes over and says, the ike inyam, what you have is inside for us, it's for us. You want to be put michutz la'atzmecha? Okay, but only a ha'ora bilvad. Only a dora which is a hispashtas, not a mahus. Only a hispashtas of a not a mahus. He said, okay, ein poilim be'avodim lizbato be'etzem mahusam, legabi koiches ha'pnimim. He said, therefore, the koiches agasim and the Avrim agasim are not misbatil to him. If they were misbatil completely, then you could do things with them. All they do is they say, look, if these koiches elyonim will talk enough, then we will have a certain agreement between us that will be makabel from them. We should become different, and we should be mishtana and amos. They got their kelim, and their kelim tell them what to do. So, how they come to us. So therefore, the Rebbe gives a dogma. We'll see about that in the coming. I'm sorry we only learn from it, but this is very reich in yonim. It's we do find sometimes a certain pu'ula, and the Rebbe brings a dogma. Some people are able, beribuya shkida with the moichin, they can cause the koiches ha'eichel to not to function so much, not to not function at all, but not to be so much, but it's not a pool in the etzem mahus. It's only like a mania, and then later when that'll be let down, then they'll come back to their normal. And that's what the Rebbe once spoke. The Rebbe to more get from them.
So by the Rebbe.
Yeah.
For
bring hours. And but Mechila, there was never any suggestion that I would go anywhere. Never to go to the toilet. I mean, sometimes. In the old days, be 8-9 hours. It had the Kentana for bringing Atsho, Simchas Torah, Moitzah Simchas Torah. 8 hours. No problem. For bring from about 7 all the way through 3 in the morning. No. Never any sign of anything. No concern about any inyan, just and kosher bracha after that. And then you had all these unfortunate people who are trying to get to the in the middle of a farbrengen. What do you do? They're always watching. You have to duck out to the toilet. So given a ganz and a sukia for the dimension of so everyone spoke about it. He said that you can be monea, something you can be monea. The Ishpashtas of the koiches ha'eichel. The state of Polish is one. I once saw it in our sefer of the Shinova. He was the son of the Divrei Chaim, Shinova, sons. he writes that Ali Day the mentions Mamikis Atzmi be non limud he can be monea the Koyches HaIchu and all those inyanim Koyches HaDechio will stop for a time. And when he lets them go, then they'll start up again. The Rebbe's point is that's it's an important thing, but it doesn't change them. They still stay what they are. They're just sort of, holding back for a while. They're not punching with against the normal ball bearings. I mean, any time the Rebbe took hours, to give kosher bracha. Just show it. And normal for bringing Shabbos, the Rebbe came down 1:30, and in the summer he would finish at 5 in the afternoon, 5:30, 5:45. I mean, that's a solid 4.5 hours. And the Rebbe daven mincha, there's no sign of any necessity of mechila. That's what he means. That's right. That there can be a certain interrelation, or even that's not mahusi. No, that's by the people who know how to do it. That's that's small fry. It's somebody's pashas. Anyway, Moshiach now taking me out mamish. Ay, God. Unfortunately, what they're doing now is always pashas. Anyway, Hashem Shadol. We gotta go for the